Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this evening's King's Board of Education special meeting to order. Mr. Martin, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff,
Here.
Mr. Beltram, Ms. Cowan,
Here.
Mr. Skrull.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
Make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan, Mr. Skrull.
Yes. First item we have on our agenda this evening, reports and presentations. Mr. Sears, I'll hand it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Earl, with education. Those in attendance this evening and that are watching online, I'd like to thank all of you for your engagement as we have some continued discussions on the impact of the upcoming ballot issue on the November ballot. So this evening has one agenda item, and it is to discuss that impact and for us to look across the district to determine the outcome. Either way, but we can that responsibility to communicate to our community. So before we begin tonight's meeting, I just want to take a pause and recognize the staff, students, and parents of the entire Kings community. Just yesterday, the 2026 niche report ranking came out, and Kings is in the top 8% of districts in the state of Ohio and number 11 in the greater Cincinnati area. I will say that we are number 8 in Southwest Ohio. There are 3 Kentucky school districts on that greater Cincinnati. So we look at that as we are at number 8 in Southwest Ohio, which is incredible. That recognition is not about numbers or rankings. It's a holistic reflection of the dedication, talent, and care our staff and students bring to school every single day. And for that, we want to say thank you and congratulations for the work that we're continuing to do in our district. We're Mr. Clayton, we celebrating that over the coming days as we like to do. Tonight, we face a significant responsibility, talking openly about the facts that the levy on the ballot does or does not pass. These conversations are difficult because they involve our teachers, administrators, our support staff, our coaches, our school community, and the programs and opportunities associated with our students. I want to be clear, the potential reductions that will be discussed this evening are not about job performance, the impact of programs, or the outcomes for students. We're blessed with outstanding people in every role across the district. These discussions are solely about demonstrating how we can align our budget with resources and providing the community the transparency they've asked for. We've heard from community members who want clarity on what is at stake if the levy fails. It's our responsibility to share the facts openly. As we go through this discussion, I ask that we keep in mind the work happening in our classrooms every day, the commitment of our staff, and the bright futures of our students. This is the evening's presentation is a necessary step in providing the facts to the entire Kings community. So with that, we will start off in our presentation. To the next slide, Ms. Croy. So let's just review a little bit for those folks who have been engaged. It's a review for those other folks that may be new. So for the last 2 years, the Board of Education and Administration have been in significant discussions on how we can continue to operate financially in the school district. Over that period of time, there's been a significant amount of work done that has enabled us to get to this point where there is a necessary need for revenue. With that, the board is elected to, and what is on the ballot is a combination of a 1% earned income tax and a 1 mil property tax reduction. It's an approach that is designed to account for 2 things. Number one, change the frequency of levy structure in Kings, eliminating the need for getting off of that 3-year levy cycle that we're projecting, and also being the first step towards some levels of property tax reduction, property tax reform for our community. The third leg of that is that the board has passed legislation that requires an annual property tax review. If cash balance thresholds are met, additional property tax reductions shall occur in the future. Although the 1 mil reduction is a start, and I think we need to recognize that as a start towards continued property tax reduction in the future. We wish we could do more. The ballot measure allows us to do a mil. We could do, if our cash balance enabled us to do more, we could be there. In this case, it's this combination. So ballot issue 10 specifically talks about and ask the community, you are either voting for the combination of those two, or you're voting against the combination of those two.
So before we get into the rest of the presentation, we wanted to take a second and take a step back and talk a little bit about why we're here and how we got here. So this is a conversation we've had with the board for a long time now, but just wanted to kind of synthesize and summarize in total. So Kings is a heavily funded, locally funded school district. 75% of our revenues are generated from property taxes in some form. The state funding formula shows Kings as higher than average incomes, higher than average property values. So their formula does not provide with a large chunk of what we need to operate. So we have to ask the community to pay that portion. As far as state revenue goes, if you look at Warren County, Kings is the lowest funded per student in Warren County. We actually received less formula funding in 2025 than we did in 2024. At the same time, we have numerous voted property tax levies throughout Kings history that don't grow with inflation. Kings is thriving. We've seen 25% plus property tax value, property value increases in the last year. Our voted property tax don't increase with that. There's reduction factors that come in to equalize that, so it doesn't increase property owners' bills, and we also don't see a benefit from that. That's also state law, House Bill 920. So as we're dealing with two things, we've also seen increases in inflationary cost. The cost to do business has gone up for us the same way it's gone up for homes, for other businesses. And a lot of times we can't control those increases. And at the same time that's going on, we can continue to see consistent increasing enrollment. We've seen 886 additional students since 2015. To put some context on that, that's like a whole nother school building within our school that we've added in the past decade. So we've been talking about this a lot in the past 2+ years as a board and as administration. We've had special meetings. We talk about it at regular meetings. And finally, this winter, it came to the head and to the question to the board of, what are we going to do? We have two options. We can either ask the community for additional funding, or we can make substantial reductions to personnel, student programs, services. So ultimately, the board elected to put the earned income tax with property tax reduction on the ballot. Go ahead. So we wanted to take a step back and kind of look at what we're asking for holistically as a district. So the 1% earned income tax is estimated to generate $12.5 million in the first year. The 1 mil property tax reduction will give back 1.5 million to the community in lower property tax bills. So the net of that, we're looking at right at $11 million in estimated revenues in the first year. The other option the board considered was a 6.9 mil property tax levy. That would have generated about $10.5 million a year. So the net effect of the two is pretty similar, but the thing that makes the earned income tax different and more appealing to the board is you actually see inflationary increases in revenue as incomes rise. So as I said, the voted property tax levies, there's reduction factors that come in where we don't see the inflationary increases, but with the tax incomes rise, we see inflationary increases. Just 2 points. when we projected this out on the 5-year forecast, before this was placed on the ballot, there was not a need for an additional levy request throughout the forecast and potentially longer with this plan. And also, just to reiterate Mr. Sears' point, it's the first step to property tax reform in Kings. It's not a 1-for-1 trade, 1 mil for 1%. But it's a first step in potentially, well, in lowering property taxes right now and then potentially more in the future. So we wanted to highlight some common questions. It's the bullet point at the bottom is linked to the website that talks about the frequently asked questions available, the resources that we've linked from the state of Ohio, a video. There's quite a bit of information there, but just a few things that were consistently being asked. So number one, what have you guys done in the past 3 years to be fiscally responsible? So we've generated revenue or found cost savings to the tune of over $8 million in the past 3 years. This is a number of things kind of around the fringes with minimal impact to the classroom. So we're talking about our hiring practices, proactive utility purchasing, contract reviews. So a little bit of everything. Second question, when will the earned income tax and property tax reduction become effective? If approved, both would become effective January 1, 2026. How long is the millage reduction in effect? If approved, the millage reduction would be permanent as long as the earned income tax was in place. So they go side by side, just like they're on the ballot together. Go ahead.
So moving into the first look at this, if it passes. So Mr. Morrow outlined the rationale and some of the revenue associated. The purpose of this revenue is to maintain the academic and extracurricular programs that we currently have. We have a robust educational program from pre-K through 12. This maintains our current academic offerings. It maintains our current music, art, theater, and athletic programs. It continues to allow us to provide academic supports for student learning. That allows us to grow our personalized learning and experiential learning opportunities. Who's been very engaged into our experiential learning opportunities, as we presented many times about our internship program and some of our college career or prep opportunities that we have at Kings High School. This allows us to maintain current class size levels. It increases our safety and mental wellness personnel. So we would over time continue to look to increase that as we want to be as safe as possible, but we also want to provide that service for our students. And then it allows for additional opportunities for our students to prepare for careers in college. As we've pointed out many times, we are hyper-focused on our Power 5 skills. Our Power 5 skills are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, and career readiness. We are embedding those into all aspects of the educational program, K through 12. And it's extremely important that we continue to provide opportunities for our kids, not only to grow academically, but also to develop the necessary skills to be highly competitive against their peers as they travel onward outside of our district, whether they enroll or they enlist or they go direct to employment. And the last thing this does, it allows us to continue to attract and retain instructional talent. So we are a destination district for teachers. Mr. Spinner will tell you that we have a lot of interest from folks that want to come and teach in our community, in large part due to our students and families. We like to attract and retain those folks in this model. So the next side of that is without new revenue, we're facing approximately $9 million in cuts that will be made that will impact the following programs. $9 million is a significant amount, and there's significant impact to that. So they will be impacting transportation, preschool, childcare, King's Kids Summer Camp, kindergarten, how we operate extracurriculars, athletics, youth programs, specials offerings, gifted education, school nursing, special education, mental health support, reading support, counseling, English as a second language support, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, advanced placement or AP courses, computer science and engineering offerings, workforce development initiatives, world language offerings, and will impact students' development towards an honors diploma.
So where does the $9 million come from? So what we're looking at doing is achieving two things. First of all, we have to balance the budget for next year. We can't spend more than we bring in. And also we have to maintain or protect the limited cash that we do have. Our savings account, we need to be able to weather an unforeseen storm and also remain liquid. So those are really the two goals and what we need to accomplish. Without a new revenue, we have to make reductions. So those reductions would need to go into effect for next school year. And also I think it's important to point out that that's a 1-year fix. We would need to continue to balance the budget without additional revenue. So if costs continue to rise, then we would have to react accordingly by continuing to trim that spending.
So we'll stop here. Are there any board questions that we can take before we get into the specifics that are that we'll outline over the course of the next little bit?
Just to confirm from the previous slides, so any of the reductions you show that would be impacted for the 26-27 school year, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will, the rhythm with this is I will outline what we currently offer under each category. We'll outline what the impact for, if there is a, if the ballot issue does not pass, and then the dollar figure associated with that reduction. After each one of these, we will then allow the board to ask any questions through that. So we'll pause after each one and then go through. So the first one we'd like to take a look at is transportation reductions. Currently, we are busing our students in grades K-12 each day through Peterman Transportation. We also provide bus service to private and parochial schools throughout the region. The levy failure impact would be a shift towards more of a state minimum transportation model, which would be eliminating busing for grades 9 through 12. Including our private high schools and our students that take advantage of our autism and JP scholarships students. There would be implement a 2-mile walk zone for grades K through 8. If you live in a designated area that's considered within that 2-mile area, there would be a walk zone there. You would not be eligible for transportation. This impacts personnel in terms of our high quality bus drivers that are working in our district each day. That's a $1.3 million reduction. Please go to the next slide. There's a little more context with this. I'll allow Mr. Lucky to kind of walk through a little bit more specifically what this means.
Just to give it a little bit more context, so you saw the number of students that we've increased by over the last 10 years. In that 10-year period, we went from 55 routes to 43 routes currently with 800 more students. So we've done a tremendous amount of work with going to the 3-tier and with bus counts and routing and shifting things around to gain as much efficiency as humanly possible. But this new state minimum version would offer no busing to any high school. So that's our current King's students as well as any parochial high schools. The walk zones, grades K through 8 to give that a little bit better explanation. So it's anything 2 miles from the end of your driveway to the middle of the bus drop-off lane. So if you're in the junior high, you can pull your car out to the end of your driveway and put it in Waze and see how far it is, or Google Maps. And if you're over 2 miles, you will not get transportation services. So you'll see a reduced number of buses for JF Burns, SLE, KME, CIS, and the junior high, and you're going to see a pretty healthy effect on the time that those kids that are offered busing to be on the bus, because we'll cover that much more ground to get those students. Big examples, JF Burns, currently 14 routes, will go down to 4 buses that will go to JF Burns. So you'll see over half, 2,662 or 55% of our K through 12 students affected by this busing going to state minimums.
So would this eliminate the in lieu of payments?
Yes. Well, I say that if you are in high school, yes, because we don't offer it. Anything that we were to offer, so if there's an elementary that they're outside of that 2 mile walk zone, we would still do in lieu of. So we'd have to provide that.
I asked if this would impact in lieu of payments.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, this 2 mile radius, is this driving or is it a straight line as the road flies?
2 mile driving.
2 mile drive.
And this 2 mile radius, we call it a walking radius, but is there any consideration taken to the safety of said walk?
No.
Okay, so it's just flat
2
out,
miles.
2 miles, is just, sorry, I'll get it closer. I just asked if 2 mile radius takes any consideration into the safety of that 2 mile walk, since it was called a walk radius. But you're saying that it's just flat 2 miles.
2 miles into driveway to bus drop.
So you said currently we have 43 routes
Correct.
and we would be going down to
30.
30.
This time, right? The time on the bus, will that increase?
Significantly. So you're covered. So just take the high school, junior high, for example. So currently our high school, junior high, we have a pretty efficient system in that first tier. They both ride on the same bus. So I'll lose all my high school kids. I'll continue with the junior high kids. But I'll be able to get that much more space on that bus, so that route will grow, call it double. Mileage wise, just a lot depends on the stop and the quantity of kids at each stop, but we're covering way more ground with 1 building worth of kids than 2.
So I just want to be clear, if there's an 8th grader and a 9th grader, and they are both beyond 2 miles, that 8th grader, brother and sister sibling, can get on the bus, but that freshman 9th grader will not be allowed to have a bus ride.
Correct. You'll have a situation where we'll have neighbors where one is eligible and one is not.
Because of their
Because-
driveway.
Driveway to stop.
And next, we're identifying student participation and technology fees. So currently, there is not a strict participate fee for athletics, clubs or activities. We know that the Kings Athletic Boosters plays a significant role, along with our other booster clubs, plays a significant role to help our athletes and our activity and artistic students. But there's a wide variety of opportunities that we offer in athletics, academics, and artistic clubs and activities. We also, as a district, utilize Chromebooks throughout the district. There is a small technology fee associated with that. The district provides Chromebooks to students on a rotating basis over the cycle of their career. So they'll every few years, they'll recycle and get a new one so that they can have access to the technology they need to operate instructionally. The levy failure impact would produce our Kings High School and our Kings Junior High athletes will pay up to $625 per sport per season. Does not include any level of multi-family, multi-student exemption or discount with that. We would implement participation fees for academic and musical or artistical extracurriculars, such as theater programs, musical programs. There would be some level of a participation fee that we would implement at that point. That would be reducing the amount of teams and clubs and activities that we offer. And there would be an increase into that student fee that would support the necessary devices and software that our students are accessing through the day. This is a 1.2375 revenue generation. So this is taking money from the general out of the general fund expenditure. It's putting a situation to where these programs are basically self-funded through the participation fee that exists. So the general rule is all of the supplementals, all of the associated costs need to be covered by the participation fee. If that's difficult to do, we'll have a challenge in even offering that club or activity forward. So this generates revenue, which negates the opportunity to reduce additional staff, as you'll hear as we move forward. As we're looking to make significant reductions, we're also trying to target that up to that $9 million mark. So we're not only looking at making staffing and program reductions, we're also looking at ways to generate revenue to offset the impact on staff.
Find some of the factors that'll go into the decision of which activities to reduce.
So, yes, I can provide a little context on that, and it really goes down to if there's an activity that has low enrollment, low participation, and is unable to fully self-fund that program, would AKA cover the coach, or cover the supplemental position, or cover the necessary transportation because of low participation or enrollment. Those types of clubs and activities would be difficult to operate.
So these are optional activities. It's not something that the district has to pay to provide. So there would need to be more discussion down the line if there was any type of scholarship or something along those lines, but these are optional programs.
Do you have your calculator up by any chance?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, so let's go back to my 8th grader and 9th grader. The 8th grader plays one sport. Football, let's take for example, and is in, I guess we don't really know how much like the musical might cost, right? So I guess we can't estimate that yet. And then we have the 9th grader that does cross country, indoor track, and track and field in the spring. So we have 3 sports, one for the other, and then how much would the student fees increase? Because both of those would have that.
So we would have 4 sports, 625. And then 150 in additional fees. So $2,650.
And just out of curiosity, how many kids participate in sports? Do we know that number?
Yeah, 1,400.
So 1,400 kids, $2,600 for this family of two. Gotcha.
About the student fees for devices and software, would there be other instructional fees?
I mean, I think that's, we would always student fees that, to cover cost of, and we have them in place right now in some of our classrooms to offset some of the instructional materials or lab materials that are required. So we would need to do some further analysis on the additional impact that would be. But there would be that possibility.
At the same time, just to clarify, you can't charge a fee if it's a direct curriculum material, so those would still be provided.
Next, we'll be looking at facility rental fee. So currently, we charge non-school sponsored organizations the cost for custodial fee and for uses of our facility. So this is another revenue generating opportunity. Outside organizations are charged a rental fee based on the facility use. So in this case, the facility use agreement will be modified and applied to non-school sponsored individuals or groups utilizing our facilities. The fees associated would cover the cost of staff to maintain and the appropriate custodial work around the rental. It would apply to this is not an inclusive list. We just wanted to provide a couple of examples that use our facilities rather frequently. Would be Scouts, Kings Basketball Association, CU Volleyball, soccer shots. There's lots of art different clubs, etc. There would be additional fees for those folks to use the facilities. Again, this is to cover associated costs that we currently have. We're estimating about a $50,000 revenue generation per year, based on some of those rental fee associations.
Would that be for just indoor activities or outdoor activities as well?
Both, yeah.
And those costs would be obviously passed along to the families since the organization can't absorb those costs, correct?
I think each organization is going to have to determine how that impacts them, but obviously if they're budgeting and they're now going to experience additional costs to generate the revenue, they're going to have to look closely at their budget to determine if that's going to be an additional cost associated to them, or they find different facilities that they're going to have the kids participate in. But more than likely, it'll be a cost associated with each family to offset that. But that's going to be up to each individual organization how that works. Next, custodial services. So currently we're utilizing in-house and Alpha and Omega custodial service to provide daily cleaning to classrooms and facilities throughout the district. That if the levy failure impact would be, we would reduce the cleaning model in classroom and buildings and look to potentially increase the outsource opportunities. This is approximately $100,000 reduction we're associating with this.
So if it's,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, if it's not daily cleaning, would it go to every other day?
Yeah, so you'd have certain touch points, bathrooms, those kind of areas that would be a daily, but you'd go classrooms on a rotational basis.
When you say increase outsource opportunities, can you give an example of where an area is we could possibly outsource that we're not already doing so?
you could dig deeper through attrition in our contract. So when a head custodian were to retire, you could outsource those positions.
Next, support staff reductions. Spend a little time here. Currently, in our district, what we're classifying as support staff are personnel and staff that are not directly in the classroom, but they provide necessary services around the classroom to support what's happening and give our teachers everything they need to do the work each and every day. Currently, we have cafeteria and recess aides in buildings. We have instructional coaches. We have technology support positions. We have administrative positions in buildings, operations, athletics, student programming. We offer beach acres mental health therapy support in each building. Currently have nurses in each building. We've seen an increase in our ESL population. We're currently to 719 students. We talked about in the last board meeting. It's an increase significantly over the last few years. And we currently have a school counselor at each K through 12 building. Some of our buildings have more than one based on the enrollment. So the levy failure impact, we would be looking to reduce cafeteria recess aid positions. We would reduce our instructional coach positions, reduce our technology support positions, reduce administration and administrative assistant positions. We would look to eliminate the beach areas mental health therapy support in each building. There'd be a reduction of a nursing position in the district, a reduction of a TESOL position. That is teachers that support our English language learners, and a reduction of a counseling position. This is a significant reduction. There's a number of associated staff associated with these positions. It's a $1.275 million reduction, kind of across the district.
Talk about our ESL learners. It says we have a population of 719. Those, how can you just review how much that has increased over the past couple of years?
Pat's pulling it up.
Let's pull that up as we speak. Dan.
So. Sure.
So I think that's the challenge in this is how this is a little bit the last time in 2022 that we had a slower experience. Accomplishing $9 million is extremely challenging. And so gut-wrenching decisions that are being made in things that associate and work with our students in a lot of ways. And so it's challenging to get to that point. And so I think if we have things on there, to be honest, we have things on here that it's hard to get to that point. And so that there are impacts with this that will decrease some of the therapy that our students are receiving here on campus in our buildings. And so it's a challenge, and those are not easy discussions or easy decisions to do that, because we want to continue to offer that level of support and therapy to continue some of that when we're just at the beginning of this presentation. The continued reductions throughout it to be a comprehensive look that I think it's going to be challenging. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Mr. Sellers, on that, on we're gonna talk specifically about that one, but I think it's a challenge we're gonna have moving forward.
I'll jump in real quick while Kim is getting her mic on. One of the things that's different in the past few years is we used to have more mental health funds from other sources. Or they were free to a school district. That has really changed in the past couple of years. The funding and the fact that we're being charged differently than they were. So I will say that looks different than it used to look. And Kim, you can go into more of that.
Yeah, it's definitely become over the years more of a challenge to maintain just for a lot of different reasons. You know, for one, Beachacres currently uses braided funding models. So they are looking at sources from Medicaid, private insurance, fundraising, the mental health board, local dollars, and self-pay. Even still, Medicaid reimbursement is capped and it comes in much lower than what the services rendered to our students are. So just to kind of give you an idea, last year there were 463 individuals served, and that's through therapy, therapeutic services, medication management, prevention services, and crisis coordination. We have a dedicated therapist in each building. That just helps eliminate any barriers such as transportation, parents' work schedule, access to care wait lists, and our access to care is currently at 82%, and the national average is 75%. So it's embedded just to meet the students where they're at here in the school. And we already have 174 clients already enrolled for this year, and we're just at the end of September. So the need is definitely there. It's a very large blue footprint for our district.
Deb, to also answer your question, Kim and I have spent some time talking about how could we do this. There are some models with some of the different, different therapy companies that we could reach out to talk about a different funding model. So we would look to do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
So just to, Mrs. Groff, you asked about how our numbers have grown for ESL over the years. And I'm just looking now, because of course we keep track of that. So in the 19-20 school year, we had 174 students that received ESL services. And as Mr. Sears pointed out, now we have 700. So in that period of time, we've increased that population significantly.
Okay, and I know they use a lot of technology in helping educate those kids. So if we're reducing technology support, how is that going to affect a learner that's in those classrooms?
I mean, I'll try to answer that the best I can. You know, we do use a lot of technology across the board. You know, what we're looking at is still maintaining Chromebooks for students, which would be helpful. What could be a problem later on are personnel who help to keep all of those up and running. In addition to other programs that we use that come at a cost for students. So there could be some delays there. We do provide, in addition to Chromebooks, we do provide other translation kind of tablet type of devices for students, especially now in the wake of recent cell phone policies, where students had their own devices previously and do not use those now.
That makes sense.
So next along that line is looking at investigating a safety reduction. So currently we have 4 FROs in our buildings. We have 2 security personnel from high school. And we're utilizing the Go Guardian tool that monitors student safety on district devices 24/7. So this is a software tool that we purchase that monitors student safety. It works, and it's there's a lot of things that happen outside of the school time that we are monitoring for student safety. As we look at this, we would investigate reducing an SRO position. We would then we would have 3 SROs that would share our 7 campuses. We would eliminate our 2 campus security positions at the high school and we would eliminate the usage of Go Guardian as a result. $275,000 reduction. Part of the rationale for this being in this position is since the 2022 passage, we did add safety personnel. We added the 2 campus security positions and we added an SRO. So with that, and if this does not pass, maintaining that level makes it a challenge. But these were additional positions that we did add and we committed to at the time that we said we were going to increase. But if we're in this position, these are some of the challenges that we'll have moving forward.
Start using Go Guard. But you,
Do you want me to take it?
I think 3 years ago.
Before we had Go Guardian for, I believe it's before, this is our 4th year, I believe. Before that, we had Securely that did somewhat of the same thing, but Go Guardian expanded it. Yeah,
okay,
we still got a grant for the past 3 years, and we didn't get the grant this year. We've gotten it the other 3 years.
what's the cost for Go Guardian?
Between $60,000 and $70,000 a year just for Go Guardian.
And can you just give just a little bit to create a better understanding of what it does? If you could give a few examples, a couple examples.
Do it, because Kim's our resident Go Guardian.
Yeah, it uses artificial intelligence algorithms just to kind of do certain keywords or searches that students are looking at. So anything that is a threat to themselves or the school community at large. So sometimes we find that it's an assignment that they're doing, but it could be, kill, die, suicide, things like that. And the reason we moved from Securely to Go Guardian was because you can see the context in which they're using it in. And then that kind of has taken down the ability to, we're not responding to things that are false alarms and you can kind of see, but it has, I can only imagine how many lives it saved or intervened at a time that somebody was in some distress that could have led to possibly something more dangerous.
Deborah will also add, it's 24/7 on the weekends, evenings, everything, and they have a live person. So if they find something that we get an immediate phone call. And then we can call the parents, which happens quite a bit.
Thank you.
I understand that these are things that we can reduce. I feel like safety is one of those. It's like a non-negotiable. What could we do in order to not lose an SRO? What could we do to not lose those campus security? How can we make up that 275 somewhere else?
Yeah, so we can certainly, so what we're presenting is a pathway to 9 million. So there's certainly this, there are other discussions that would happen in the future if we are not successful. Now measure does not pass. So with that, the $275,000 would offset with additional staffing reductions in somewhere else. And so that I don't making up grants. One of the things you're seeing is a response to elimination of a grant was once there for safety reasons or others. And then we just as it make a decision to afford to continue to operate that or not. I think if anything that is not with it, we would have to determine reduction is coming from. Likely it's when it comes from additional personnel from some other position or place.
So currently we have 4 school resource officers covering 7 buildings. Where are they at? So we've got one at, can you explain where they're at the schools and then what it would be like if it would fail?
Yes, we have one at the junior high and high school. We have one that is operating between Columbia and JF Bills. We have one that is operating between KME and KC, and we have one at South Lebanon. So the configuration of that, I think, is to be determined. What that does, it just increases the range that one of our officers is having to continue to service.
If this were to pass, could we add more school resource officers?
Yes, I think that's, I'm gonna. Yes, because one of the things that, if you go back to the beginning of the slide, it was number 6, slide 6. If the levy passes, we're looking to increase our safety and mental wellness personnel. And so that's, it's a similar standpoint of where we were in 2022. We're being transparent that we'd look to do that. If we're not in that position, I think we have to have some hard discussions if we can continue to offer that.
Okay. If I remember right, Warren County and was very generous to give us what they could, but they also have to staff too, so.
Yes, they're having to staff, so it takes a little bit of time. So at the time we were able to acquire what we could at the time, but there couldn't have been an additional commitment at that point in time.
And I do thank them for that.
Okay, moving forward. Now we're going to get into positions and programs impact. So this is less about the periphery and some of the positions and services that we've been discussing. And let's get into a little bit more around programs that are going to have direct impact on students. And it'll change the student experience as a result and look a little different. So the first one is that we would be looking at, Marcia, thank you. We'd be looking at school childcare and summer camp. And so currently, special education preschool is required by law. We're offering childcare for pre-K students in the AM and PM, and we're offering childcare before and after school for grades K through 6. We also offer King's Kids summer camp services each summer to students. Levy failure impact would be an elimination before and after school care, be an elimination of King's Kids summer camp, it'd be elimination of preschool childcare, the time that they're not in preschool, and then we would also be looking to reduce preschool position. So this generates $112,500 reduction if the levy is not passed. School. Go ahead.
I know the preschool childcare, we have 71 that use the preschool childcare.
Before and after is over 200 students.
200. And how many attend summer camp typically?
On average, 165.
Where it says on the current operation, special education preschool is required by law, and so that would continue to the other side. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. We would continue with the special education preschool. However, it would look a little bit different. We currently have 20 students with a disability that are attending the preschool childcare. They would likely not be attending a preschool program. We still are required to serve them, so we would have to do itinerant services, which would require us to have a preschool intervention specialist go to wherever they are in their own personal childcare, private daycare, wherever that might be.
Thank you.
Next one is reduction of full day kindergarten. So currently we are offering a kindergarten program, approximately 356 students, including opportunities during their full day killing day. They attend specialist classes also, art, music, PE, etc. The levy failure impacts. We would move from a full day program to a half day program. It would eliminate specials for that half day program kindergarten students. This nets a $600,000 reduction.
So moving to a half day, that would create a bus route in the middle of the day, is that correct? And so the added costs, I'm assuming the added cost of doing that bus route is factored into the.
So over midday loop. And remember, now that you're at a 2 mile walk zone, you're very limited on what you'd have in that midday. So in the morning for the start of the AM version, they would just get on the bus with the regular route. You'd have a midday that would drop those students off and then pick up the PM. And then in the afternoon, the PM kids would get on that regular route bus to take them home. Those routes at the midday would be fairly lengthy for those kindergarten kids. You'd have that few of kids, so you might have one bus that does all of JFB K midday.
So we're using the language walk zone, but I'm assuming for the kindergartners, we kind of hope that they get either picked up or someone would show up to walk with them. Is that okay?
Yeah, we don't turn them off of a bus without an adult being
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Have
that's
the
what I
same
was figuring.
expectation. Mhm.
And so then we just go to reduction. Proceeding.
Certainly, currently operating under the numbers we have today, we have 16 kindergarten teachers. So if we were to go to half day, that would reduce us to 8 kindergarten staff. Now, all of our kindergarten teachers have, say, a pre-K through 3 license. Some of them may have a 4-5 endorsement, so pre-K through 4-5. So while it may impact that program, those teachers could displace teachers who were less senior in other grade levels. So if those teachers here a less amount of time on a limited contract, the kindergarten teacher who may have more experience may move from a kindergarten classroom to a second or third grade classroom, maybe even in a different building.
That's what I was gonna ask, if that's across buildings.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Can you describe what a kindergarten day looks like now? If it's only a half day compared to a typical full day that our district is used to?
So a typical full day kindergarten, you have literacy blocks and math blocks that are included, just like other grade levels. Science and social studies standards are also addressed. Those students have specials. They have lunch, recess, and then also intervention block. So it looks very similar to other primary students. A half a day would really reduce, as we said before, specials. There would be no specials, and there would be a literacy block and a math block.
So total instructional time would be about half of what they're currently getting?
Yes.
Okay, next one is, this is more of a K-12 across the board. Looking at, increasing class sizes. Currently in grades 1 through 4, we're averaging 23.8 students per class. Grades 5 and 6 are 26 per class. Grades 7 and 8 are around 25 per class, and the high school is between 26 and 30, and it varies obviously by the course and the elective, and the complexity of that. So you could see the current numbers from that variation. When in this levy failure impact, we'd be recommending a class size that goes up to between 28 and 30 in grades 1 through 6. Grades 7 and 8 would be approximately 30. Grades 9 through 12 would be 30 in core classes, and then sometimes it's higher in elective courses, sometimes a little less, just depending on which one. But we would be in that that 30 range. That's a $1.8 million reduction K through 12 when we impact class sizes to this level.
Would that reduction come from directly from a reduction in force, or would it come from other factors also?
Okay.
Come from a reduction in force once we raised those class sizes from say grades 1 through 4 from 24 to 28 to 30. We could have a classroom size that would accommodate less teachers. And the process for going through that reduction of force would be very similar to what I outlined with kindergarten teachers. And obviously this and also the kindergarten plan would impact our specials programs as well. We've talked a little bit about eliminating music and art and physical education. Our regular ed teachers with their grade band licensure may have more flexibility. Those teachers with seniority and experience. Our physical education teachers, music, art, perhaps they typically would not have places to go. So you might have teachers who have an inordinate amount of experience here in our district who could be a reduction in this case.
Thank you.
Special education. So currently in special education, there's approximately 665 students on an IEP served by 48.5 intervention specialists and 88 paras. We have 3 social communication classrooms. We have a transition coordinator at Kings High School 2 days a week. We have a job coach at Kings High School 4 days a week. We also have a board certified behavior analyst 3 days a week, working with our staff throughout the district. The levy failure impact, we would be increasing caseloads for intervention specialists, should result in a reduction of intervention specialists. We'd eliminate our social communications program in the district. We would reduce our transition coordinator to 1 day a week, in that it is solely paid by a grant. And in that 1 day would equate to the grant. Job coach, we would, same thing, would be reduced to 1 day per week and it would paid for by a grant. And then we would eliminate our BCBA. That's approximately a $475,000 reduction.
So when we talk about a caseload, what's a typical caseload for an intervention specialist?
That's a great question. So it changes by grade level. So K to 8, max is 16 on a caseload. 9 through 12, max is 24. There are also special rules around students with autism. The max in a classroom is 6 on a caseload, and then an MD classroom is 8. Those are all K-12, by the way, for the MD and the autism.
So how much bigger of a caseload is this compared to what our current intervention specialists are used to?
Absolutely. So here I've got some, pull up my charts. So when we start school years, we never start at the max because we always have move-ins. We have students who go through the evaluation process and are identified. So we typically leave a little bit of leeway to allow for that movement because we're not allowed to go over capacity by the state. So right now, the average for JF Burns is 14. The KME is at 9. SLE is at 13. CIS is at, or Columbia, excuse me, is at 13. King's Junior High is at 13.5, so 14. And King's High School is at 16. That is based on numbers from September 25th. Those change every single week because we have students that qualify for services. And so we continue to add on. Have gone through a couple of models for what that would look like, starting off max caseloads, which puts us in a really difficult position to support our students appropriately.
You know, I jump in there a little bit with special ed. You couldn't stand it, right? You know I do it. So one of the things when you think about caseloads is that we've always done is every student doesn't equal one, right? You have a continuum of special education students. So we've always allowed for a little bit of a different caseload depending on behavior versus a speech only. If we cut, we won't be able to allow for that. It would really just look like a caseload number. And that's where it becomes difficult, especially when you talk about the social communication classrooms and some of those going back on a caseload of 16 or 24. That's a very different caseload than how we carry right now.
And just to be clear, these are our kiddos that are struggling already.
Yes.
Yes,
Reading, math.
yes, behaviorally, absolutely.
Next, reduction of specials and enrichment. This is a more in the K-6 world. Currently, we have special opportunities in PE, art, music, STEM, and our media center. At the K-6 buildings, there are also teachers, reading tutors, TESOL teachers, and in grades 4 through 6, we are offering gifted instruction for those students. The Levy failure impact, there would be a reduction of offerings and frequency of specials. So the student day would look different. There'd be a reduction of gifted instruction and support, and a reduction of some of our reading tutor positions designed for some of our struggling readers. It equates to a $950,000 reduction.
Now, how many students receive gifted instruction or reading tutor instruction?
We have just shy of 1,100 students who are identified. We serve gifted students in math in grades 4 through 8. And then we are just this year rolling out English language arts gifted services also in grades 4 through 8. And then we also have superior COG services at Columbia with Mr. Luke's Spark class currently.
And when we say, oh, sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just gonna add too. So we have reading intervention services at our 3 elementaries and also at Columbia. So at JF Burns, we have over 200 students K through 4 who receive reading intervention services. We have 89 at SLE, 42 at CAMI, and 50 at Columbia right now.
And on that gifted subject, when we say reduction of gifted instruction and support, is that reduction of how many opportunities they have for instruction? Is it a reduction in personnel? Is it both? Is it any change in who qualifies?
So there would not be any change in what qualifies. We don't establish that. So the state provides those rules to us. We would still be required to identify students, but service would be impacted by any personnel changes that we might see. So we also are required to provide professional development, high quality professional development, and a different curriculum for students who are gifted served. So I can't pinpoint every single change, but it would definitely impact our ability to serve. So I just mentioned ELA. So we're just layering in ELA service this year. We have our first teacher training tomorrow, actually here in this room to, talk about the gifted student and the gifted needs of those students and, going through our curriculum maps to identify where to serve the students to kind of, challenge them appropriately, but.
And we've worked really hard to build that up recently.
We have, yeah.
Next, looking at King's Junior High course offerings. Currently, King's Junior High operates on an academic team approach. The junior high offers a variety of elective courses, including some of those for high school credit, and classes that give students an opportunity to explore passions and interests. If the levy failure impact would be an elimination of academic teaming structure in the junior high, and then would move to more of a traditional 6 or 7 period day junior high schedule. This would be in a reduction of elective options. It would eliminate high school credit course offerings for 8th grade students and eliminate our intervention quest program. This is approximately a $375,000 reduction.
For those who aren't aware, can you just give a brief description of the Intervention Quest program?
Sure. So Quest is just the name of the course for students that are at risk of not meeting standards. So at the K-6 level, it is during an intervention block. And this is one of the electives for students in 7th and 8th grade. So they're identified based on data, and it's one of their elective courses that those students take. And it's a mixture of both 7th and 8th grade students who receive intervention and extra support in ELA and math.
What are some of the courses that junior high students may be taking in the high school or high school credit?
Our current courses for high school credit, we offer for 8th grade students PE and health opportunities. Tech apps is another opportunity. We also have Spanish that is available for credit, and then also French, actually.
Can you explain why we use a team structure in the junior high? If that would change?
I'll turn that over to Mr. Spinner.
So we've got a few middle level educators in this room, me being one of them. So teaming very near and dear to our hearts. Teaming structure is appropriate, and research runs deep on this through the Association for Middle Level Education and its partners. But that's the appropriate approach for young adolescents, grades 4 through 9. So the opportunity to catch them as they're midstream in their education through a teaming model that's language arts, math, science, and social studies. They may have 125 students on their team. Those teachers meet every single day. They talk about kids, curriculum, and professional development, and really do a great job of building relationships with those students at a pivotal time in their lives. Eliminating teaming at both Columbia and the junior high would provide more flexibility in scheduling and the opportunity to increase class sizes and look more like a high school. I would like to remind you that both Columbia and the junior high have been recognized for their teaming structures. Columbia as a Hall of Fame school a few years ago, and the junior high as an Ohio school to watch. Much of that has to do with how they serve their students currently through the teaming model.
And that 375,000 reduction, again, is that completely due to a reduction in force, or are there other factors that will lead to a reduction?
By and large, the numbers on most of these screens have to do with personnel because of the cost.
Thank you.
Next, Kings High School course offerings. So currently at Kings High School, we have opportunities for students to experience learning through a wide variety of coursework that is designed to prepare them for college and career. Currently, Kings High School requires 23 credits for students to graduate. The levy failure impact would move towards a state minimum of 20 credits. So that is the minimum high school can offer. Would be state minimum education. We would reduce positions in each content area, impacting elective offerings, including 10 AP courses, advanced courses, and courses valuable for student transcripts. This would also make it a little more challenging and difficult and limit the ability for students to graduate with an honors diploma due to the reduced courses that are associated with this reduction. The levy failure impact in this case is a $450,000 reduction. And to preemptively answer your question, Deb, this is a reduction in force initiative.
How many students are currently taking AP courses?
We have 31% of our students in the high school right now taking AP courses. So that's just about 450 students currently.
And we say 10 AP courses. How many AP courses do we have approximately?
19.
19. Okay, so
So, just for people that aren't aware what AP courses are, they are advanced placement courses where kids can take these classes and get college credit, correct?
Yes.
This is a little near and dear to my heart just because I've saved a lot of money because I had my child take AP courses. How much is a typical credit at like an Ohio State? Let's take Ohio State as an example.
I did jump in here. So I did a little bit of research. So when you look at the three schools in Ohio where a lot of King students attend, Ohio State, UC, Miami.
Okay.
So I did a little bit of research to figure out a per credit hour cost. All of those schools actually have, a full-time tuition semester cost for 12 semester hours up to 18 semester hours. And then they have a part-time per credit is kind of the best that I could find. So students that are enrolled in 1 to 11 credits. And so for Ohio State, that was $550 per credit hour. UC was 580 and Miami was 770. So that was just based on what I could find on their websites. And that's a per credit hour cost.
Janelle, I know you know this, but just for anybody that's listening, a per credit hour. So Ohio State, a class is 3 credits. We'll just say that. That's 1 AP course. So that's 3 times 500, 3 times whatever. That makes sense.
Right. So that's a lot of money, potential savings for parents if they are taking those courses. And 31% of our population is taking these courses. Okay. I have another question. Sorry, I have a lot of questions on this one because this is we're getting ready to take our kids out into the world now. We've moved, not that anything is not important, but this is like they are going out into the world now. Kids are applying to college. And I can tell you firsthand, it's grades, it's test scores, it's course rigor. How do we prepare our kids if we can't give them the course rigor that it takes to get into some of these schools? Because if I have a King's kid with only 9 options for APs and a Mason student that has 20 options for APs and a Sycamore that has, I don't know how many they offer, but I know those 2 schools offer a ton of rigor. How is our students going to compete to get into Ohio State? Because that's a hard state school to get into right now.
You guys chime in. So I think this is the ultimate challenge moving forward is that the change in instruction or the change in offerings has an impact. We've focused entirely the last few years on, and I've said it 100 times, that our work that we're doing is to grow kids not only academically, but give them the necessary skills and competencies so they can be highly competitive against their peers when they leave the walls of our school district. When we're looking at numbers like this, these are some of the consequences with that, and that it impacts the ability of our students and has the potential to impact the ability of our students to demonstrate competitive offerings and demonstrate competitive competency against their peers when they are applying for state schools, scholarships, etc. This college applications, having a daughter in college right now, been through a lot of this work. The more robust your resume is, the more robust your transcript is, the more experiential learning opportunities you have, the better it is for you to not only gain acceptance to said university, but also scholarship application as well. So when you move towards a state minimum credits at graduation, the state minimum is exactly designed for that. This is a minimum educational experience. When we're in these discussions, and these are the hard discussions we're having, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, Mrs. Groff, because this is This is something that I know we've in Kings for many years have pride ourselves on, that we feel like we're doing a great work preparing our kids for life beyond the walls of our district. This is an impact that could impact our kids. There is, it limits their ability to have some of those high qualified resume building opportunities in their classrooms and on their transcript. Anything, do you want to add to that?
And I don't want to take anything away from our non-college bound kids, because a couple slides ago, we were talking about the, I forget the exact title of that gentleman that works to help our kids discover jobs that are not college bound. I want those kids to have those opportunities as well. So that's concerning.
Staying with the AP, how will it be determined which AP courses we keep and which ones we eliminate?
So one of the things I think we'll do is, if you look at where we said it talks about the ability to graduate with an honors diploma, we'll do them on a rotating basis for some of them. So if you're a student that's through 4 years, you might have twice in those 4 years opportunity to take them. It'll also be based on the number of students that sign up for them too. So we have to have a certain amount before we would run the class. So we'd look at them both ways.
I mean, the only other thing that I would add is, our first obligation is to make sure that we have students in the core classes required for graduation. Some of those AP courses meet some of those requirements. I'm thinking of like AP Government, for example, kind of hits both of those. But a lot of our upper level, like science classes, for example, are advanced courses geared to prepare students for STEM careers and study there. And those courses are potentially, at risk to be offered just based on personnel. So this is just a summary slide that shows basically every program or building or offering that's impacted with the associated approximate cost or savings or revenue generation. So I won't read back through. Just wanted to point out that it's all encompassing. We tried to make sure everything was touched, so we weren't focused on just one area or just one classification. While going back to everything that's been said about core instruction being kind of the key.
Can I go back and ask a question?
Sure.
Because now that I'm seeing them all listed here, not that anything is more important than the next, but transportation is a tough one for me. And I guess it's a tough one because I worked at an online school and we had kids that came to our school because they couldn't get to their school. A good example is Fairfield, Lakota, like they have eliminated busing in those schools and they can physically not get their children to school. So they're now going online. If we were $1.3 million is a lot of money. So is it, if we kept transportation as is in order to get our kids to school, how many positions are we looking at that we'd have to find somewhere else? Because this all comes down to people. So
we'd be looking at approximately 18 positions across the district to offset that. So
that's not a good option either.
Well, along those lines, it's a balancing act, and if the board is in the situation where they're having to have this conversation and make decisions and actions to do these items, that's what it's going to be. Is it this or that or both? Or so you lead into what potentially is a conversation later.
And I know 9 million's a lot, and I appreciate all the work and focus that went into preparing this, but I do want to echo Janelle's sentiments previously about safety. That's a hard one for me. All of these are hard. I mean, I know that when you were, when this was all looked at, this was really hard. But just keeping our kids safe, physically, mentally, that's really hard. But again, all of this, it's a lot.
What we've tried to demonstrate with this is that, and I used this language a little bit ago, that this is a pathway to accomplish the goal associated with balancing the budget. This is a pathway. It's not a formal commitment at this point. But if we're in this position, this is what it's going to take. It's going to take very hard decisions. Ultimately, what that final group looks like and the individual pieces look like is still certainly discussionary, and that's why this is a discussion. The board is not voting on anything this evening. But I think the presentation that we've worked through is to demonstrate this is the pathway towards that. Ultimately, if we're in the position, we're going to really take a hard look at every single one of these, including safety. I don't think any of us want to really do that. I don't think we really want to. I mean, all of these have great impact to students or staff in our district, and I think it is a difficult thing. It's hard to communicate that in a way that's concise and comprehensive and all encompassing. And I think you see the list, it's an all-encompassing look across the entire lens of our school district. And so that's the challenge. But this is not an exercise. This is the reality of where we are, and why the revenue and the ballot issue is on for voter consideration, because this is why. I think this is demonstrating there's a clear continued need for us to do that. And if not, we will work through this process to balance the budget. But upon the request of the board and the community, this is a pathway to that, and this is what it's going to take. And those are all hard, very, very hard decisions moving forward.
Because when we say staff and reduction in force, all of those are people. It's not. It's all people, and yeah.
We are a people business. At times in the business world, when your revenue is not growing, and you're trying to respond to inflation, you may raise a cost of an item, or you may make personnel reductions. And so that's the decision. We don't have the ability to just arbitrarily raise costs. So our community needs to have input on that, if that's what they want or not.
Potentially, how many people does this impact?
So it's approximately 125 staff members.
So I think people can understand why Kings is special. Like it's special because we have these things. It's special because we aren't state standard. When people come here, they say it feels different, and that's why. I mean, kids get an amazing education here. Seeing those reductions, that's not Kings to me. I know that we will keep educating kids and do the best we can, but that's not Kings. So I just hope people have their eyes wide open. I mean, it's the voters' decision what kind of school district we have. If you want this or if you want the alternative. But to me, this is not the Kings that we all know and love.
Scruff, I think there's just a little bit more to this. So Mr. Skrull asked the question, And it's just something that we just need to consider. This will be future discussion for this, if we're in this position. With a reduction of the 125 positions approximately that include childcare, custodial, safety, teachers, administrators, support positions, program reductions, the significant class size increases. We're going to be in a position to have some serious discussion and consideration about restructuring the district, to consolidate space, to achieve greater cost savings, ultimately maybe and potentially by reducing the number of school buildings in operation. When we're in this position, and Mr. Freeman mentioned it, it's come up, Mr. Morrow mentioned it, but we're in a position to protect the core instruction moving forward. And the core is what our focus will be. In order to do that and continue to protect core instruction, we're going to need to look at how we're utilizing space throughout our district as well. As Mrs. Cowan has identified many times in this conversation, these are reduction in force conversations. And when you're increasing class sizes and you're reducing staff, then you are opening up classrooms. But we're also filling those classrooms with a significant amount of students based on the budget, not what's best for our students. And so with that, we will need to be in some considerations moving forward about potentially redrawing boundary lines to create the most cost-effective and the most efficient operational structure in our district. We know that our community has valued the current structure and having the configurations that we have. But I think we're going to be in a position where we need to look at what are those boundaries and is that working the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. We need to have discussions on, do we look at the most inefficient and expensive buildings that we're currently operating? And do we have discussions on that and closing, potentially elimination of neighborhood schools and implementation of grade level buildings? Again, all of this is for the amount. When you're looking at 125 positions across our district, we're looking at a significant amount of instructional change. As Mrs. Groff identified, the experience in Kings looks a little different. Our job moving forward is going to be to protect the core instruction. And we will have that as a primary focus. But we're going to need to have some discussions on how do we utilize and organize the district in the most cost-effective and efficient manner moving forward. So I'm just going to kind of tag that onto this additional conversation we're having here at the end, because I think that's something that's real that we're going to have to look at.
Which buildings are inefficient to run? Which are our most inefficient buildings?
The most inefficient to operate is JF Burns, and it also requires the most large upkeep items that need done at that building.
Because of age.
Yes. Just has the most needs.
When you began the presentation, Mr. Sears, you talked about $9 million happening for next school year. What happens after that?
I'll speak to that. So after that point, we would have to look at our expected revenues and expected expenses every year to continue to balance the budget without an increase in revenue. So if our expenses continue to go up and our revenues remain relatively flat, then you would have to cut year after year, or get some type of additional revenue. And as we said in the beginning, the largest by far revenue here is local revenue, community paid revenue. So it would be those two options, similar to the situation we're in today.
If we were needing to cut things next year, I mean, what are the chances that we can bring them back? Like for instance, transportation. Like I know Lakota has done the same thing, but they don't seem to be able to get it back. So
one of the big problems is after you lose something and you lose the opportunity to generate money in any given year. You have to ask for more later to be able to bring something back, rather than right now we're in a situation where we're asking to keep things status quo. We're not asking to go back and add something that was lost before. So it becomes how much could you ask the community for, and that they would support to be able to do something. So your ask gets bigger and bigger over time as you get in these holes that you're having to cut things. Is that a decent way does that make sense?
That makes sense. So the only thing we're asking to possibly increase is safety and mental health. That's the only thing we're asking. Everything else is just keeping Kings the way it's right now.
That's correct. Keep Kings the way it is.
And if we were to go to some of these additional considerations, like redrawing of school boundary lines, closing inefficient buildings, how quickly would that take effect?
I think it's a good question. I think that's something we would need to have some further discussion on with the board and administration. But I think if we're in this situation and we're looking at the 125 positions and the number of programs and the impact we're going to have, I almost believe it's a simultaneous discussion for us to have it as we're finalizing what that would potentially look like. I think we need to look at how we organize our facilities as well. So answer your question, John, I think it's a consideration that needs to happen at the same time we're looking at how we're at the reductions we're making.
And just for clarification for anyone watching the meeting, looking at these slides, when we're saying redrawing of school boundary lines, I know, I'll just say my mother. If my mother heard that, she would think that meant we were changing the school district. And I just want a clarification for those listening, that redrawing of school boundary lines, that refers to which school a student would attend. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So we would look at drawing lines, because it's kind of the way it works right now, is that there is a line that says you go to a certain elementary school, for example. We would look at redrawing those lines to create the maximum amount of efficiency, and that is the most cost effective moving forward. So you may be at one school, the line may change and it might move you to another school.
Okay. Thank you. And my mother thanks you too.
And then last question, the neighborhood schools, can you define that? Because I think years ago, there was a lot of talk about neighborhood schools, and now I'm not sure if people K through 4 understand what that means.
Yeah, so neighborhood schools is just it's a loose term for schools that are in close proximity to where folks live. In Kings, we have 3 schools that are designated and probably could be classified as neighborhood schools because it breaks the district into thirds. So JF Burns operates the southern portion of our district, KME is in the middle, and then South Lebanon's in the north. And so those 3 elementaries are classified as neighborhood schools, is because they are in close proximity to the vast majority of students that access that building.
And it goes hand in hand with grade level buildings then, because if we get rid of the neighborhood, then we'd be clustering by grade level.
Yes, that's correct. And again, all of these discussions are around the entire concept of protect core instruction moving forward, and then analyzing the most efficient, cost-effective way to organize the district moving forward.
In all of my years in the district, this has been the most thorough presentation, heartbreaking.
Any other board commentary? I'll close this out this evening. And so I'll just identify on the screen, we have a couple engagement sessions coming up. The first one is tomorrow. We're having a community information night. And so those are designed for Mr. Morrow and I are going to be at South Lebanon Elementary at 7. We are going to present the facts behind this ballot measure. And we will discuss in not as nearly as thorough as this, some of the impact of that. So it's an opportunity to learn more and then ask any questions that the community might have. We have 2 opportunities. The first one is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at South Lebanon, and the next one is October 8th at Columbia at 7 p.m. And so those are 2 opportunities for any community member to come out and learn more and ask some specific questions. We understand that it's a complex issue and it's a little different than what we've done in the past in Kings. But this will be an opportunity again to learn more. I'll also say we have on our district website, kingslocal.net. Right at the top of that, there's a ballot issue button. You click there, it takes you right to all of the information, including a short 3-minute video explaining our FAQ and some other components. So,
And to clarify, this is open to the community. Nobody needs to sign up. They just show up, correct?
just show up. We'll have cookies and all kinds of stuff. Right, Mrs. Croy? She's done a nice job prepping for that. So yes, it'll be informational. It's what it's designed for. We want people to come and learn, and we'll do our best to answer questions that they might have. So as we kind of close tonight's meeting, and I just want to thank our staff, our families, our community members for their continued engagement. The information that we presented this evening, it's intended to provide clarity around the potential impact if the levy passes or it does not pass. Certainly, as we know, these are not easy discussions. They involve programs, services that our students benefit from, as well as impacting a significant number of staff that dedicate themselves every day to our kids and our school. The purpose is to share. Sharing this amount of detail is to ensure transparency and to respond directly to the questions we've been asked through many of the conversations we've had in our community about what does this look like if it does not pass. I want to again recognize the efforts of our staff. I want to thank them for the many successes that our students are exhibiting. The achievements remind us the importance of the work being done every single day. And so we're grateful to live, work, and learn in a tremendous school district. And so we appreciate the engagement. We appreciate our team, the work that was put in preparation. We appreciate the board questions. We hope this provides a little clarity moving forward, kind of where we are in the impact on either side of this issue. So appreciate everyone who came out. Appreciate everyone who's watching online. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Mr. Morrow, myself, or any one of our board members. We'll be happy to answer that. But Mr. Skrull, back to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation and the engagement, all the information here. Seeing that that's done, may I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I will make that motion.
I'll second. Go ahead.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.